now the most reasonable talk show host from Sob Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
Well, good evening and welcome to Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan tonight with Bill Rankin, my partner. Glad to have you again on.
Glad to be here. It's fun to do this.
A number of people who have written and suggested your views are a lot more informed than mine, and I don't appreciate that. So we're bringing Bill back on to try to prove that.
The question is, how high a standard is that?
Well,
is that praise or not?
It is. I guess it is.
More fair than Stalin.
Now I want to find out, why are you so down on my friends in Detroit? They're just trying to make a living. They ratchet a few bolts. They live in humble little houses in Detroit. They formed a little union to try to get a few benefits from all of the greedy Republicans that run General Motors. Why are you so down on them?
Well, I'm certainly not down on the union workers, and they're certainly behaving the way you'd expect about anybody to behave. If somebody offers you wages and benefits far in excess of what your skills could demand in the open market, you're going to take it, as you and I have.
Now,
for years.
the real difference in wages is about $7 an hour. It's 55 versus 48.
Is there no dispute about that?
There's very little dispute about that. It's the legacy cost, but I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
There are
legacy costs.
There are huge union benefits that I know you're going to go into that I personally agree with you about. I think it's just gotten to the point it's killing business. But go ahead and tell us some of them. Yeah.
Even if you assume that the wages are comparable to what they pay to the auto industry that is in Detroit, people kind of forget, and Richard Shelby reminded everybody, well, we got to have an auto industry in this country. We've got an auto industry in this country.
Yes.
Even if they all go away, we've got Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai, BMW, and Mercedes making cars, and they're doing okay, and they're not looking for a bailout. Here, first of all, it is not proven that people say, well, we can't go bankrupt. The steel industry. Our steel industry went from this huge industry employing all kinds of people down to very little. There's a little steel industry now that makes money without a government bailout. Our auto industry needs to do something of the same. No matter what happens, the auto industry has too much capacity, too many workers for the cars that people are going to buy. That's the basic problem.
What will happen to Detroit? If they shut this down, go into bankruptcy, greatly reduce their workforce, abandon these plants. I know in Highland Park, for example, they have abandoned plants in Highland Park. You have these massive buildings for blocks that are empty.
Yeah.
It's like a ghost town in Highland Park. It is a scary place. That used to be the heart of Detroit manufacturing was in Highland Park. Now,
do we keep them going even though it doesn't make sense? I mean, the airlines went bankrupt. Some of the steel industry went bankrupt. They survive on a smaller level. The only way they're going to survive is get rid of some of the legacy costs. Trim various costs. Give the shareholders the axe. Too bad for them. And then maybe they can survive. What this bailout is doing is a lot of the stuff they do in bankruptcy with politics involved. There's life after bankruptcy.
Right.
They keep going. A lot of these industries, about every airliner you get on, Southwest may be an example, those airlines have been through Chapter 11 reorganization, and they kept flying. Right. And there may be some unique problems to the auto industry, which the government can solve.
But your idea was debtor in possession financing
guaranteed by the government.
Could be guaranteed by the government,
right.
And you would favor that.
Oh, yeah.
You would?
Yes.
That's interesting. Now, why? That's government intervention in a free enterprise?
Yes, it is. But it's less government intervention.
But you still think the government has a role in protecting financing of in this reorganization plan?
Yes, I do think government has a role.
If it's true for the automobile industry, is it true for any major industry in this country that experiences the same fiscal financial disaster? Should the government come in when they go into bankruptcy and guarantee their financing?
The government shouldn't have a different... First of all, the auto industry is huge. The government shouldn't have a different philosophical approach dependent on the industry, but the approach ought to include the idea this would be catastrophic before we step in. If the mom and pop fruit stand fails, we all know they're going to fail, and the government's not going to do anything.
John, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, you're up.
I've come to the conclusion after just weighing the pros and cons of the situation regarding the car bailout,
right,
that I do not agree with it.
Okay.
I know Detroit is in the situation it's in now because the people who inherited the industry really aren't cut from the same cloth as the people who built it. and they have been extremely slow to change.
Yeah.
Japan did not sneak up on the American car industry.
There's plenty of blame to go around.
Oh,
John?
Yeah.
Do you also blame the government for forcing? This is just one of the problems. Just one of the problems. The government forces automakers to sell cars. You gotta have a corporate average fuel economy of such and such, and which means even if you got to sell cars at a loss, you got to sell those cars to get your average fuel economy down, or else you get bombed.
So they make money on
we
some.
We make really good cars in Europe. Let us import. No, you can't import those. Those don't count. And that's your government. Now, has the auto industry made mistakes? The management, these people are paid all this money. How about this? We're going to leave these people in power. Rick Wagner and the other heads of the automobile industries. First of all, the whole thing is political theater. They flew in on jets. But why aren't those people smart enough to realize if we fly in on jets and just ask for money, people aren't going to like it?
It's the judgment.
How are they so stupid? Not that they've spent some tiny little fraction of a hundredth of a percent flying in on jets. Just that they're so stupid, they don't understand what Congress, who's playing to the public, is going to require of them. They said, would you go to $1 a year? As well, I'm kind of good where I am, I'll get back to you. Then they changed. So they completely changed their policy in a couple of weeks, and they couldn't have foreseen this? They need to go. I think they would wind up going in bankruptcy.
I think
Bill,
they should too.
It's hard for me to imagine, though, that we have three competitive automobile makers, and we've driven American-made cars of the big three. In fact, I own one now.
You've got one out there now? I own one too.
Yeah, and we have others too, but it's hard for me to accept the premise that all of management in the big three are all incompetent and stupid. I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
No.
That doesn't make sense.
Of course not.
So this,
they've made mistakes.
But to categorize the industry as having failed, they have some failure components. But I mean, the idea, like Chris Dodd said, that we need to fire the CEO of General Motors. I mean, for the government to interfere with the executives of these companies,
I agree
crazy.
with that. The government shouldn't interfere at all. But you never get government help without strings. Never. That's the problem.
It's sad.
You know.
It's sad.
Now Warren Buffett will go in into these companies, save them by cutting himself a good deal, and do it to make the business survive. The politicians are going to do it to please their constituents. That's what's wrong with it.
Years and years ago, when I was in the radio business, we had an advertiser. You probably don't even remember this car. They built a Simca, S-I-M-C-A.
Oh, I remember the
name. And the Simca sold for $800, and it got about 40 miles to the gallon. Very efficient and a neat little car. The Simcas failed because people didn't want a little car that got good gas mileage. Right. And I don't think anything has changed now except the price of fuel, where people say, well, I just can't afford it, so I'm going to get a small car. But everybody wants a big, comfortable, nice, safe, big car.
I want one that goes fast.
And goes fast.
When the price of gas goes up high enough, you can sell fuel-efficient cars. People were lined up for Honda Priuses when gas was $4 a gallon. Here's some government intervention I'd be all in favor of. Right now, gas prices are low. Put 25 cents tax on there and use it to fix infrastructure. And next year, put another 25%. That signals to the oil producers, good signals, and that helps to keep the price of fuel down. So you pay for your tax, which is fixing American infrastructure, with the profits that are lost by the oil-producing companies. That sounds pretty good to me.
This is Within Reason. Bob Kerrigan and Bill Rankin. This program is rebroadcast Monday at 10 and Friday at 10, and we will see you not next week. We're going to be off for a couple of weeks through the holidays. We'll see you after the holidays, and thanks for watching.
Good night.